You gotta have a podcast.
You gotta have a podcast. You gotta have a podcast.
You gotta have a podcast.
You gotta have a podcast.
You gotta have a podcast.
You gotta have a podcast.
You gotta have a podcast. You gotta have a podcast.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to You Gotta Have a Podcast. I'm your host, Angela Palladino. How's everyone doing this week? I mean, one tiny win with many other things left to do. But shit, like, man, the last week or two for me has just been completely bonkers. I overbooked myself with work, and it's just straight up dumb shit that I always do is just say yes to everything and then regret it later. But one of the shining lights of this week was editing this podcast episode and listening back on this conversation I had with our guest today, Steve Jeanty. Steve is a comedian and rapper and writer and just general creative genius who blends different art forms together in a way that's really refreshing. Every single thing that he puts himself into, you can see his brand of humor, his style, his taste in music, and like the way that he thinks about things in this sort of outside of the box way, all coming together in whatever work he is doing, whether it's writing sketches or jokes or creating music and writing lyrics or, freestyling. He has this way of looking at the world that is, I think, completely unique. And we talk about that, about how everyone sort of has their own different way of looking at the world. And the hard part is translating that into your work and not conforming to what other people want you to do. A lot of people can look at someone like Steve, who does the sort of things that he does and, rapper, comedian, and think, oh, I want you to be just like Childish Gambino. But Steve is not about that. Steve wants to do his own thing. He has more creative ambitions in mind than just emulating your career like someone else's. And we talk about how you really have to just kind of stick to your guns about being yourself and creating the work that you want to create and showcasing your voice, not trying to match the voice of someone else who's already done it. So really great conversation. Steve's a great guy, and it was really fun to chat with him and just kind of get a peek inside of his mind because his mind works in a way that is, I think, really, really interesting and fucking cool. So here is my conversation with Steve Jeanty.
Most of the people that, when I was like rapping, they were like, if you don't have a specific producer, you will not be successful. So you need to be friends with like a person that just makes beats. And it's like, most of the time, you're not really trying to be friends with those people. Like, it's like a thing that like it clicks. It's either like you like their production and they like the way you rap, or you don't. After that, it's like more of a business thing. So I've tried to like make friends with producers, and it's usually like, all right, this is like you looking at me like a check and not as a musician. So I find it better that if you have the patience, just make your own beats, or find someone that's like someone that looks at you as a musician, as a person, and then work with them and then pay them. But with comedy, the only shit I really got with comedy that I really don't like is like you have to write about yourself. That shit. Oh my God, that just, it's like you can have like a pilot that's like so creative, you know what I mean? But they're like, oh, that's not your life though. And it's like, yo, why gotta be my life though? You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's shit like that. Or if you're, like I've met with like managers or agents and reps, it's like, if you say someone you want to model your career after and it's not someone that's like in the spotlight, they're automatically like, nah, we're good on this. So I remember I went into like a meeting and I was like, I would love to be like Reggie Watts. I feel like he just kind of wakes up, does what he wants to do, and he's like low key about it. And they were like, not Donald Glover though. I'm like, yo, fam, I definitely don't want to do no Lion King. I'm so straight on, you know what I mean? So I think there are certain comedians that do love themselves enough to write fucking sagas about their lives, and you know what I mean? But I'm not. I don't love myself enough to, you know what I'm saying, give you all of that shit.
I think that like that's so funny because I feel like in like the mid 2010s, everyone was looking at like the Donald Glovers or like Broad City and being like, they're writing about themselves and like everyone's saying that you need to write what your own, like, I don't want to do like a caricature of myself if I were to write a show. Is that what you're kind of saying? Like to do like a show that's just like a version of you?
Yeah, like I think like it's so much fun to like create a world, you know, instead of like, here's like real life and let me just like tweak it a little bit. Like I think a world is more interesting. Like I specifically wrote a pilot about like a basketball player that has like a rough career and then he has to go to like England and he gets like tied into like British mob, right? And then the first thing the person was like, yo, just write about a rapper that works at a brewery. And I'm like, yo, dog, ain't nobody trying to watch that shit, dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's really cool though. Like, so you're like, do you get like inspiration from like outside of yourself or like where, like for, like when you like think of like an idea to like sit down and write a pilot, that's a long process. Like it's a big commitment sometimes to like spend all those hours in front of the keyboard. Where do you kind of find those like the inspiration for those worlds that are outside of yourself?
Like this is sound really nerdy, but like I like to think about like what if this actually existed? Like I feel like certain things are like pretty like boring. So it's like, oh, what if there was like a basketball player who had a rough career and then he actually got tangled in that? Or like, what if there was like a show about like a black person that didn't really have to do like music that's quote unquote black? What if it's like a black dude that does like Django Rock or he does like weird electronical music and he's like a weird DJ? So I think of shit like that. Like, what do you not usually see a POC as? Or what can a POC get into that's like different? Instead of kind of giving you the, like, we POCs always get associated with like either R&B, soul, or like rap music, you know what I mean? So it's like, I try to be like, how can you kind of flip it? Because there's always one black person that's like, I kind of wish this weird thing was a thing. And then when it happens, they're like, yeah, you know what I mean?
And the thing is, those people are out there, like, but no one's telling their stories.
Of course.
Now, I'm wondering, so like, you seem like a little bit like, at least from the outside, just like being like around the scene and knowing like your work, and we've done some shows together and stuff here and there, but like you do seem like the kind of person who's just kind of always gonna like decide to like do your own path. What like motivates you to like kind of think outside the box and get like be a little bit different as far as like your approach to music and comedy and blending those things?
Most of the things that motivate me, there's one that's unhealthy and one that's healthy. I'm gonna go with the healthy one. The healthy stuff is just like good art. Like if I hear a really good album, I'll be like, oh, like what if I try to get into this pocket or this genre or kind of see what I could do? Or sometimes I would just like freestyle over that and then use that verse that I freestyled on something my friends would send me. Or I would watch a film and be like, oh, maybe I should write a film. Like I remember when I seen The Square, I was like, oh, maybe I should write like about like a black person that owns like a movie theater and they have to deal with a director, just like you have to deal with someone with all the art in the museum. So sometimes like I would watch something and just try to flip it. But the unhealthy thing that kind of motivates me is like people telling me no. So I was at a point where I was just like, all right, I'm probably not going to make a UCB team. And I'm fine being on this musical improv team. And then someone was like, oh, you're like just a diversity hire. So I was like, all right, word. Now I'm going to make a UCB team and you're not, because you're a straight white dude and I'm going to prove you wrong. And it's like that Michael Jordan mentality where it's like, now it's personal. So it's like, like after that, I was just like, all right, now I made a UCB team. The joke's on you. I'm a black dude. I should not be here. You know what I mean? So those are two things. Or if like someone's like, well, you can't rap on that kind of beat. Like you always rap over weird stuff. And I'll be like, give me a boom bap beat. I'm going to give you 16 bars of fire. And then I just go for it.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for that. I feel like I'm motivated a lot in the same way when I like just like dabbling in other things, like doing more stand up and like indie shows and Brooklyn stuff, and found like, oh, like I'm actually pretty successful over here, like doing this other thing, and this show is going really well, and like just like then stop giving a fuck, and then so it's like, well, now that I don't give a shit, it's a lot easier to do. How is like this year being so weird and different, and we can't do a lot of the things we normally can do as far as like getting on stage and stuff? Has that like made you more creative in any way that like pushes you to like think outside the box as far as like how you make your art?
I feel like quarantine has made me be more like fuck it. So if I was sitting on anything, I would be like, all right, like who cares? Like it's like the end of the world, so let me just drop this. Like the single I dropped this year, I've been sitting on that for like maybe like a year and change, and then I was just woke up one day and I was just like, who cares? Let me just shoot this music video with my friends and just drop it. And also like applying, I would never apply for like writing jobs because I'm like, all right, I probably don't fit this host's voice, but I'm like, it doesn't matter anymore. Like let me just roll the dice. So more like that. But what I say, am I more creative? Probably not, because I can't really, like, I can't go to like a record store, pick up a random record and listen to it and be like, all right, this is dope. I can't go to like Nighthawk or like Alamo and watch like a weird midnight movie. So not necessarily more creative, but if anything, it's made me more into sports, which is kind of sad.
So I'm wondering, so like on the flip end, has there ever been a thing that like you thought was kind of bullshit when you started doing it, like, but you maybe started doing it begrudgingly because someone was like, you need to do this thing, but then it ended up being really fulfilling for you and you ended up really liking it?
Yeah, working retail.
Really?
I worked retail at a time in my life. Yeah. It was like a time where like I was going through a lot of stuff. And I got hired at Nike and I was like, all right, this is going to be like just another whatever job. And no lie, I've met all my closest friends during I think I was there for 4 years. My 4 years there, I met all my closest friends. So like if it wasn't for like friends in that group, I would have never auditioned for any musical improv team. Like they were like, go for it. I'll cover your shit, follow your dreams. I would have never recorded like actual music. They were very supportive of me when I was kind of like, cause like at that point when I got hired at Nike, my indie team broke up. So like I really had nothing to look. That was my second indie team that broke up actually, which is nuts. So I kind of didn't really have anything to look forward to. So it was like they were kind of like putting batteries in my back, like, yo, you could form another one, et cetera, like on to the next, you got this. So I thought that job was gonna be pure bullshit, but it's gotten me. I've gotten probably everything through that job. Like whether it's like my current job or like someone being like, you work at Nike, let me get a discount and it's a new friendship. So yeah, I would definitely say Nike. Shout out Nike one time. Shout out Mike for hiring me. My name Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah. Damn, that's really awesome to hear because that's like so unexpected. Like I would never expect you to be like, oh yeah, like this retail job ended up being such a big part of my life, you know?
Yeah, it's a nice community.
Yeah, for sure. That's really dope. Have you like ever received a piece of advice that you thought was kind of bullshit, but then maybe you found out later it ended up being actually really true, or vice versa? You thought it was true, but it ended up being a bunch of bullshit?
Oh yeah. Okay, so when I first started doing like hip hop improv, I would try to like bar out, like just say like not the most witty things, but I wanted to make sure like you could see that I could rap, like compared to the other cast members. Because the other cast members on my team were like, you know, like they weren't like rap first. They were kind of like theater kids. Yeah. I guess they just saw a niche lane and they kind of were like, let's jump on that because of like other musical improv teams they're like using like keyboards and songs or whatever. So I want to make sure that like you'd be like, all right, that guy's a rapper. So one of my homies was like, yo, I want you to know, bro. And he's like, because you do like a half. So you do like basically a montage and then you do like an interview thing at the end of the show. Yeah. So my homie comes up to me during the middle of the show. He's just like, hey, bro, like, I want you to know no white person that's paid $10 on a Saturday night at this bar gives a fuck if an African-American could rap. They just want you to look like an idiot. And I was just like, that sounds dumb as shit. And it's a hip hop improv team. I think this is dumb as shit. But he was like, I will bet you 2 gin and tonics that if you go there and spit some bullshit, it's gonna be better. It's gonna go up. So I was like, all right, bet. And I spit like pure dookie. Just like, hey, what it really do? I took a poo-poo. And the crowd was like, ah! So it's like, I did that shit from that show on, road gigs, corporate gigs. And I'm like, oh yeah, my friend was not fucking lying. Like at first, I was just like, since I love the art form of rapping and freestyle, I was like, I don't want to rap bad. But I was like, hey, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. But like advice that people gave me that usually sucks. Usually anything on dating. Any advice.
Were you like annoyed by the fact that like the audiences wanted like bad rap, or did you were like, fuck it, whatever it takes to get the laugh?
At that, I was not annoyed because I learned that you kind of have to like know your crowd. Like I learned a skill from that bet, because like I perform with a lot of hip hop improv teams, and there's one that's more POC cast members. And we'll perform in like Harlem. We'll perform in like Flushing. You know what I mean? Bronx. We did like a lot of Bronx shows. And those people, they care if you could spit. Like, you know what I mean? Like sincerely, like they care if you could spit. But if you're doing a show in like the middle of Manhattan, you know what I'm saying? Like Upper East Side, you're on the road, you're like in fucking Providence, Rhode Island. They don't give a damn.
Yeah.
They like to see that you're making it on your feet. But they don't really care about what you're saying or how you're flowing it. They just be like, that looks like fun that I possibly can't recreate, which they can. So when I did solo stuff, that bet made me realize, if I'm in a room full of hipsters, now I know what reference to make that's going to make them listen. Or if I'm in a room full of like older people, I know to rap funnier and make more jokes. If I'm in a room full of just Black and Latino people and Afro-Latino people, I'm just going to rap. I'm going to just do me. So that's what that bet made me realize.
It's a pretty important lesson, I think. Like, know your audience, read the room. Like, that can be so applicable to so many types of performing. Like, yeah, that's really great. Yeah, it's so interesting how, like, those little moments along the way, like, when you're coming up and you're learning, like, the ropes of how, like, comedy works, how stage performance works, how, like, just gigging around works. Do you feel like the same level of like excitement now? Like, I know we're not really getting on stage right now, but like, I guess right before the pandemic, like, are you still like every time you get to get on stage, like feel like a kid again, as far as when you first started to get out there? It's so exciting.
Yeah. With me, it's all about like the venues. Like I remember when I did Union Hall, first time I did Union Hall, like I thought I did a bad show. But I'll never forget this because like the host was like, hey man, Jordan Klepper was like rapping, like vibing with one of your songs. Like he liked the chorus. But I was like, I felt like I could have done better. So when I went back to Union Hall, because like I love Union Hall, like that venue, I don't know. I just fuck with it.
Yeah, I love it.
I remember when I went there the second time, I was like, yo, it's fucking Game 7. I got my homie with me as the beatboxer. I got my homie as the guest. Like I'm fucking ripping it apart. And that show was like, you know what I mean? I always put that show first for like a clip. Like, oh, if you want to see one of my sets, see this. It's like, whenever I get to do like any like venue I love, I'm always going to feel like a kid. I'm always going to feel like, all right, it's like brand new game. Got the jersey on. Let's put the shots up. You know what I mean? But also it depends on like, if you're doing like, I always feel like a kid if like, oh man, like they got a lot of comics that don't know who I am. I got to like prove myself. Like, I love that too. Like, if I get booked on a show and it's like a whole bunch of like comedians that I'm aware of, but they're like, who's Steve Jeanty and friends? Like, I think that's also like a thrilling moment, you know, for butterflies. Or if you're homies, if the whole bill is your homies and you're like, no matter what, man, we're going to get some drinks after this. Like, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I do miss performing and interacting with the crowd. I feel like my act isn't as fun off of Zoom, I guess. I don't know.
I feel you. I mean, I feel exactly the same way. Like my stand up is so like crowd interaction based that like I've found it really hard in quarantine to like do Zoom shows and stuff because I'm just like, it's just not this. I just don't get that. Like what I got most out of it and what like made it fun was a lot of that like energy, which I feel like if it's a one-on-one conversation, you can recreate that on Zoom, but performing out to a crowd in front of your like quiet computer. So weird.
And then you got the one comment that's like, ha 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 ha, or like an emoji. Like, it's not the same shit.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's so weird. But I mean, I respect everyone who like is doing it. And it's definitely a hustle, but maybe, I don't know. You got to make sure you're getting out what you're putting in, I guess. But I mean, I found it so awesome that you've just been like dropping a bunch of videos or like music that you had previously written in quarantine, or previously written, but now you're like putting it out now that you have a ton more free time. Like, what has it been like working? Like, I know you collaborate with like a lot of people that we know, like, you know, people in the community. What has it been like to sort of collaborate like more deeply with friends who maybe would not necessarily be in, like, I saw like Mike Poole was in your video with the bike and like, you know, Mike, I know does like he raps and he was on North Coast, and I think he was on North Coast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
with me. Yep.
Oh yeah. But like I've never known him to be one to put out like music on his own outside of himself. Maybe I'm wrong, but correct me if I'm wrong, please. But
no, you're correct.
Yeah. But what was it like to like work with someone like Mike, who you've worked with on stage and in that collaborative way, like, but now you're putting out your own music with friends that you've worked with before?
It was very fun. It's always fun working with your homies because they're all different. The funny thing about Mike is that he might hate me for saying this. He does not like his performance on that song. But what he doesn't know is it's the most viewed song in that EP short film, which is wild. But I kind of got Mike on it by just being like, hey, man, you got a smooth voice. Just do this for me. And then he was like, you sure though? And I was like, I'm positive. But like working with like Elijah, who's like on 2 of the tracks, it was cool because like I wasn't that close with Elijah, and we became closer through working. So like me and Elijah have so much shit in the cut that's like not finished, which is wild. We probably got like enough for like an EP of like shit in the cut. But working with Elijah is so much fun. Working with I think the thing is the difference between working with comedians and like musicians that I find more fun is that musicians kind of, they take certain aspects of music a little bit too seriously. And that kind of makes the recording process not as fun. So I felt like majority of the people on my projects were people that are comedians first, and they just happen to dabble in music, and recording with them is fun. But kind of when you're making music with like a rapper, like an actual rapper, or like a singer, sometimes it's like not as thrilling, or it's kind of more like a job.
Serious. Yeah. I also, do you feel like you're sort of like blending of like your comedic sensibilities with your like when you're creating your music? Do you think that like your comedic sensibilities like also influence like the style of the actual like beats or the way that you're flowing, like, or is it just like comedy is one part of it that's separate, and then you're like your flow is a different part, or are they blended together? Does that make sense?
That does make sense, and that's a great question. I look at it, I blend them. So like I wouldn't like, unless I'm trying to get like a point across, I'm gonna probably rap on a beat that's more wonky or eccentric or like I don't know, like left field. Compared to like rapping over something that's like a trap beat or like a boom bap beat. Like if you ever hear me on any of those kind of things, it's more to prove like this is my point to prove. But usually I just like having fun, or I just like talking about shit I like referencing things I like, or just to like relate to people, I guess. But usually I look at it the same way that you would write like a tweet as a joke. I was like, all right, this line could be like a joke. Like I remember I said, I smoke strains that smell like a thrift store. Like that's a bar, but that's also like a joke. Like if your weed smells like Beacon Closet, that's a problem. You know what I mean? But it's kind of hard though. It's like, all right, my man he's smoking shit that smell like vintage jackets. That's pretty cool. Like that's how I kind of go into doing it. Like what's the coolest but funny thing? Because that's the thing that I used to get a lot from teachers and people are like that you can't make comedy look cool. I encourage all of those teachers to watch the first season of Atlanta and come holler at me, because that is wrong as fuck. Or watch the first season of Broad City or Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, come on. You don't gotta fucking slip on a banana, dog.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I totally agree with you. Like, I kind of try to blend like filmmaking and comedy with like that's sort of my whole background. And and a lot of people, when I was first starting to do that, were like, why are you spending all this time and intention on that when it's like, no one cares, just shoot it with your phone. It doesn't have to look like anything. And I'd be like, well, if that's what you're going for, like for it to look like it was shot on your phone, then yeah. But like, if I want it to look like for example, I did this song with Cami Dimitrova a while ago that was like, we are not rappers. She's a musician. She's a beautiful singer, but like, we are not rappers. But it was like a silly song, but we were like, we want to make it look like a Beyonce video.
Oh, hell yeah.
So
hell yeah.
we shot it with like really gorgeous cameras and lenses and made it look dope. And I'm lucky enough that I have a lot of friends with, really talented camera people. But it was like, that was the intention, while the song itself was just like silly and like we're bad at rapping. But it was like the visuals were like, I don't know. What I'm trying to get at is I totally agree with like you can make comedy look cool, or you can make comedy like be stylistic in a way that is like what you want to say. And I think that like impacts the message ultimately. Like, yeah, it doesn't have to all be Modern Family.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with Modern Family, but it's its own thing.
No, I feel you.
So like kind of touching on the idea of like there's only one way to succeed. I mean, what do you think about that mentality? Like, is that something you subscribe to, or are you like anti that, or somewhere in between?
I'm definitely anti that. I think from the way I heard my homies got on, it's all a crapshoot. It's like it could go this way, it could go that way, it could go up, it could go down. Do I think certain things matter? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess you need some kind of social media presence. I guess I'm gonna put that in quotations. Yeah. But I think mostly what matters about is like you got good shit and then you know the right people. Those are the two things I think matter the most. Like if a homie was like, yo, Steve, I'm about to start doing comedy, I'd be like, yo, make sure you rocking with the right people and you enjoy their work. Not on some like I'm your friend because I think you're gonna be on SNL. I'm your friend because your work makes me want to work harder. Mm-hmm. Stay around those people, and then when your time comes, if they get something, make sure you got something in the vault that's fire. Those are the two things I think matters about success. But with comedy, it's so hard though because it's like so subjective. Like I've heard so many comedians talk shit about other comedians that's like doing mildly successful. Like you know what I'm saying? So it's like it's not like sports. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of a little difficult. But I don't think there's one way to be successful.
Yeah, I think that like idea, like you mentioned, of just kind of being prepared and like making sure that you have everything ready to go. Like if you do get an opportunity, making sure that like you are like ready to meet that opportunity. Like if you get offered a meeting and they're gonna ask for a pilot, you can't be like, oh yeah, give me 2 days to write it. You have to just like have it all ready to go. That sort of thing. Like just preparedness and absolutely like surrounding yourself with good people who are like the same sort of mentality that you are of like hard workers and committed to like, putting in the time. Like we're not doing, a lot of us are doing this for free a lot of the time. And you got to surround yourself with good people.
Most definitely. Because the community is toxic as a motherfucker. You
know
what I mean?
Tell me about it. I try to like I try to be friendly to everybody, but also at the same time it's tough because it is so competitive, and it can be toxic, but also like you find your true friends in there. Like you find good people, and there's like that saying that like a rising tide moves all ships. And I don't know what I'm trying to say. I guess it's.
I think that's a fact. I think that's beautiful. Yes. I mean, like
support each other.
it's also if your homie's like, yo, I know I'm on, but like you can't fit this job, but I got you something else. That's still love. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You might not be fit for the writer's room, but he's like, yo, you could just be in the background, say like 4 lines. You know what I'm saying? So I respect it.
Yeah, I respect. Yeah, exactly. Like it might not be. Yeah, that's totally true. The thing you want to avoid is if you have a friend who gets a show and then it's just like, who are you? What?
Ooh,
like,
I see crazy shit. I see dudes like email people once they got the Golden Globe and that shit was like, this email does not work because some crazy shit. I'm like, fam, that's not your friend.
Yeah, that is not your friend. Oh man.
Like, first of all, if your friend want a Grammy, you should be hitting them with the FaceTime or the text. You know what I'm saying? You should definitely hit your homie with the FaceTime. Be like, yeah, you got the Golden Globe. What's up, cuz? What's up, sis? If you send it an email, bro, don't waste your time.
No. There's certain levels of friends, man. There's email friends. There's text friends. There's like, there's a Facebook message friends that you don't even have their email or their text. You took one improv class with them in 2015 and you're like, oh, I'll just hit them up on Facebook.
We all got that one person you took one improv class with, and when they see you in person, it's super crazy. Like, you want a drink? I'm like, yo, fam, we was in 201. Chill out,
I don't know you, man.
Yo.
Well, man, I mean, I'm glad to see that you're like, you're still doing the work and like putting out some great stuff in quarantine. Like, I feel like, I mean, on my small social media feed, which is where I see basically all my friends these days, you seem to be putting out some really awesome stuff as far as your music and videos and you have 2 new podcasts. And like, I just want to say, like, that's great and congratulations. And I hope that you keep putting it out because I always love to see it. I really admire your work.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah.
And, so just to wrap up, so can you remind me of the names of your podcasts and like where people can find them?
Yes, you can find my lovely musical improv. Lovely musical podcast. Steve Jeanty's Infinite Playlist, available on all streaming services that you can find podcasts. And then I have Chuckleheads, which is me and Andrew Barlow, which is available on all streaming services that have podcasts. And then, you know what I'm saying, while you're on any streaming service, look up Ronnie Cortado. I got Fully Flared 2. Got an upcoming single coming out called Jimmy Butler. Stream those 2. They're going to be pretty cool. And then you can find me on Instagram at Jeanty, where I got rapping clips. I got hot takes on certain indie albums, and I'm chilling.
Hell yeah, man. That's great. I listened to the first episode, the Steph Leshik episode of Infinite Playlist, and I loved it. So
Thank you. Shout out Steph.
Yeah, Steph's the best. And I'll check out you and Barlow's podcast as well. And I've already been streaming your music, and I'm excited to hear the new single. And exciting stuff, man. Keep it coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of You Gotta Have a Podcast. I'm Angela Palladino, and we'll be back next time with another conversation with another creative. And I hope that you enjoy it as much as I do, because shit, I'm learning a lot, and it's really great to get a peek behind the curtain with a lot of these people. Now, to take us out, instead of the regular theme song, I figured I'd play one of Steve's tracks to sort of cap off our excellent conversation. So here's one of Steve's latest. This track is called Black Eric Costin. Bye!
It's your boy! Yo, Brooks, what's up? Coming live from Mike Cooley's crib. Okay, I said your mother's house, my residence. I'm living black excellence. I spit rocks, flow water, sorta like some sediments. Yeah, I'm heaven sent, boy, you irrelevant. I'm watching reruns of Arrested Development. Bust a boot in the booth, bitch, I got the hooks. They tryna read my pad, can't afford my nook. Look, get lost your shit, piss, boss my chick goth. And I feel like pro straight from Phil Rock. Godly with a thotty, and they riding shoddy. Reading Murakami, Ian Calamari. So, niggas stop barging in, sociopathic comic class, young Fred Armiston. Wait, I'm something you should cherish. The flow type weird, call me Tim and Eric. Watch a nigga flip a trick and dip like the barracks. Like the motherfucking barracks. Black Eric
see the way that